In today's GibbsCAM video, we're going to show you how to machine your first 5-axis part in a 5-axis machine, of course. And as you can see here, this is in SolidWorks. I have some 1/4 holes here, a couple of bores, and a part that kind of looks like a Y there. So what we want to do is, of course, we're going to import this from SolidWorks, and there's a couple ways to do this. We're going to show you how to do this part from beginning to end. So let's open up our Gibbs space, and I've already started a new part and called out my machine. In this case, I'm just using a Haas UMC 750, but of course this could be any 5-axis machine that you have in your shop there. So there's two ways to get a part into your Gibbs space. You could either go File and import that into what you're working on right here, or in the case that you have SolidWorks already on your PC, you can just go to the tool menu and the Gibbs add-in and say transfer to Gibbs. Now if we jump back over to the Gibbs screen, you can see it's going to ask us, do we want to create a new part, insert, replace, or cancel. We don't want to replace anything in here, and we don't need to do a new part because we've already started a new part and I've called it a Y-axis part. So I'm just going to click on insert, and you can see it inserted the part into our space. Now it's not oriented correctly, but let's bring up our body bag. I already have fixtures that I use on this machine, so let's bring those in. And as you can see, the part's not sitting where we want it to machine. We want it this face down. So the first thing to probably do is align everything. So there's a couple easy ways to do that. First of all, we want to turn face selection on. I'm going to click on this face. I'm going to right click and say align this face to the coordinate system. In this case, I'm in the XY coordinate system, my standard first coordinate system. So just right click, align face to CS, and you can see it aligned this face to the coordinate system. Of course, I don't want it sitting upside down. I want it to flip it the other way. So an easy way to do that, just click on this again, align face to CS, and it'll automatically flip it over. So that's good. Now next I want to bring in my stock. I'm going to go to the body bag. I already have my stock that the supplier gave me. So if I click on my stock, I can bring that back out as well. And this is my stock here. It's already oriented, of course, correctly, but it's not in the vise. Neither the part is not inside our material yet either. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this part down into the jaws, and there's an easy way to do that. Just go to your plug-in menu and go to Solids Alignment. And this button here will align two solids together. So in order to use this, make sure face selection is on, and you want to click the part that you want to move first. Hold down the control key, and I'm going to highlight this surface right there. And you can see they're both highlighted. I'm going to say align that to that face. So now this stock is aligned to that face. Now next I want to align this jaw to my stock. So again, I'm going to click on the part I want to move first, hold control, and what I want to align it to second. And you can see it move the jaws up there. Now I want to do the same thing, of course, to the opposite side. Click that face, click my part, align. Now my part's aligned up correctly. Now I need to get my part down inside my stock here. So I'm going to try just to translate it down. I'm going to click on my part, click on translate, and I don't want to move it in X or Y, I just want to move it in Z. I'm going to say -5 inches. Let's see where that sits. Not quite there. Maybe move it a little bit more. Maybe let's try a 1/2 inch more. And not quite enough. And that looks like it's down inside the part right now. So what we can do is change the colors on these to make it a little bit easier to see. So let's show you how to do that. So in order to do that, let's just take my stock here. We'll just click on it, right click, go to the user color of selected. Let's change the transparency. Let's make it about halfway there and choose the color we want. Let's just choose this color here. And when we do that, you can see it's kind of transparent and our part is actually kind of in the middle there. So you can fine tune that if you want to bring it down a little more, bring it up a little more, or put it exactly where you would like it. But this will fit inside our envelope just fine. So now we can start to process the rest of it. So now let's put the origin where we want it. But before we do that, I'm going to pull up some geometry so I can place the origin. I want the origin, the Z0, at least on the top edge of here, so I know when it's at Z0, that's right at the top there. Of course, you can put your origin where you would like. Some of that depends on the post for your 5-axis machine, but you could put the origin at the bottom of the part. Some people like it there. Some people like it at the top of their jaws or top of their stock. So let's first create our coordinate systems and then pull off some geometry. So if I open up my coordinate system, the very first one usually says XY plane. I just chose to rename it top. So we need to make one for the front side, back side, this left pocket here, hole, and the right pocket. So let's do that. So if I click on top, you can see that's my top one. These are some other ones that are already in there already when you open this part or this machine. So let's click on New CS. Now when you do this, it just duplicates the coordinate system that you're already on. So you can see I have a top and this user CS, it's exactly the same place. So let's rename this. Let's just call this front. So now I'm going to change this coordinate system to be in the front. So you can choose auto coordinate system if you'd like. This will create all the coordinate systems for you. Sometimes it creates extra ones that you really don't need, or you can just manually do it, which is what I'm going to do here. So I have this coordinate system highlighted here, and I'm going to click on this face by turning face selection on. Click this button here, and it'll align it to the face. Now, of course, you can see the negative is pointing, well, the positive is actually opposite, so we need to toggle that because you want the tools to come from the positive side. So let's just click this, and you can see it toggles the depth axis, and you can see the plus is this way. The depth axis, as you can see, is pointing this way, so that's the positive side. So I'm going to make a new coordinate system. Now when I do that, it's going to duplicate this one. So if I click New CS, you can see it just duplicated that one. I'm going to rename this and call it back. And the only thing I need to do here is toggle the depth. So now there's the back. So I have top, front, back. So now I'm going to go back to top, and I need to do a coordinate system for the left ear here and the right ear. So I'm going to click on New CS. I'm going to click this face right here and say create a coordinate system and align it with that face. And everything looks good there. The positive is sticking out this way. If you always want to check this, see if you are aligned correctly, you can go to the home view down here. Click home view, and you can see that's facing our screen, positive side, so that is good. Okay, I'm going to go back to top now, and I'm going to click on New CS again, and this time I'm going to name this right. Let's go back and rename this one left, though we forgot to do that. Okay, so I'm on the right. So you can see it duplicated the top because this is what I was on when I clicked New CS. So now I'm just going to click on this face here and say align that coordinate system to that face. As you can see, it did. And if I click on home view, you can see we're lined up correctly. Now normally I rotate all my coordinate systems around the same pivot point. You don't necessarily have to. If you want, you just need to keep track of your coordinate systems on your machine as well as in Gibbs. But I find it easier just to pivot everything from one coordinate system, and it makes things much easier. And a lot of times I'll just use one fixture offset, in this case G54, because if your machine is accurate enough, you should not need to tweak any of your coordinate systems. But if you want, you can, when you post it out, you can say each coordinate system should have their own coordinate system. So this would be like G54, 55, 56, 57. you can do that as well when you go to post the code. So we're good to go for there. So let's pull up some geometry, but before we do that, I'm going to create work groups. And normally I create work groups and call them the same names as my coordinate system, so I don't have so much geometry here they overlap. So this is going to be the top. I'm going to create a new work group. I'm going to call this front. New one, call this back. Okay, another one, we'll call this left. And this one we're going to call right. And that should be all I really need. So first let's go to the front, because I really don't need to pull any geometry off the top necessarily. Let's go to front and front on the work group. Click on face selection. I'm going to click on this face and I'm going to right click and say extract all the edges. And you can see it extracted all the edges off this face. Now I might want to change the color of this so it's we can see the geometry a little bit better. So I'm going to just turn this off. I'm just going to go to user color. We'll make it a little bit darker there, so that'll be a little bit easier to see. So let's go to the back now, and back, and I'm going to click on the back face there by face selection, right click and extract edges. So far so good. Now let's go to the left side, this left pocket here. I'm going to click on this face. I'm going to click on do it. There's the geometry for that. And the right one, and right one. Go over to here, select that face, click do it. So now I believe I have all the geometry I need to start cutting this part. Let's open up our tool menu. I've already created some tools here, but we'll go through each of the tools so you can see what they are. So let's start with the first tool. I just have a 3-inch face mill basically. Next tool is going to be a 1/2-inch end mill, 3/8 end mill. This is a 201 drill number 7 for a 1/4 20 tap. There's my 1/4 20 tap. Here is a ball end mill we'll probably use to engrave some lettering on this part. And of course the last tool is going to be my tool to chamfer the part here. But before we start machining this part, we want to make sure that the fixture is sitting on the table where it needs to. If I go to my machine simulation, you can see the parts actually down inside the machine. You can see the fixture down there. So we need to tell Gibbs where that fixture is actually sitting on the table. But of course you could create a template for this machine that the vise is already where it needs to be right at the beginning. So when you start this part, everything will already be where it needs to be. But since this is going to be our first part, I want to show you how to align that up. So let's go to the top view first. And let's go to our vise, because this is what needs to sit on the table is the bottom of here. And I'm just going to turn on edge selection. I'm going to select this edge on the bottom of this hole, right click and extract the edge there. We'll turn edge selection back off. I'm going to bring up my geometry palette, click on the point command and say find the center of this hole here. So now I can dimension that. As you can see, it's minus 13.6768 from my origin, which is the top. So if I open up my document page here in Gibbs, I'm going to just put in 13.6788. Whoops. 0.6768. So now when I go back to my machine sim, you can see it's sitting on my table where it needs to be. I already have the vise centered on the table, so I don't need to put anything in these two values here. My origin where I set up the part is exactly in the middle of my C-axis there, and of course it's 13.6768 from my table there right at the top. Like I say, some people leave the origin at the top of the table. Some people use the pivot point of the B-axis in this case, but that's totally up to you how you want to do it and how your post works. So now I can start machining this part. So the first thing I want to do is face this off. I'm going to open up my CAM menu. And I'll bring my stock back in. I'm going to go to the top view as well. So top view coordinate system, top view work group. And I'm going to keep face selection on. I'm going to select this face and extract the edges off the stock there. So there's my stock there. And I'm going to, of course, have my cam, turn on my cam. And I'm just going to select roughing along with that face mill. I'm going to choose face milling. That'll change the menu just a little bit. And I want to see where this is. Of course, this should be Z0, but I can highlight this and Alt click the top there. And of course it says Z0. I'm going to probably stay a ½ inch away, and when I'm done, go back a ½ inch. Now this depth here, I don't know exactly how deep I need to go yet. So I'm just going to put this back in the body bag, and I'm going to go to the probably this left ear so I can get the depth there so I know. So I'm just going to highlight this, Alt click the depth there, and you can see that's minus 0.171. Probably going to stay away from that just a little bit, so I'm going to say minus 0.150, and that'll be pretty good. Now the cut width, I'm just going to say it's 3 inches because I basically just want to face over the top there, and everything else looks pretty good here. Let's just go back to top here just to view it. And we have our operation. Close this, and if I go to Machine Sim, we can see what it's doing. So we'll slow it down just a little bit. And there we're facing that off now. 171 depth here, or 150 might be a little much, but it's probably okay. Otherwise we could do it in a couple of steps there. Maybe we'll do it in 75,000th step. He'll round it off into 2 equal steps, so we'll redo that, and then we'll have 2 steps in there. So let's run Machine Sim again. So there's our first step, there's our second step. So the next thing we want to do is probably rough out the outside of this. We're going to use VoluMill for that, so let's just kind of rotate our part so we can see it a little bit better. This time I'm going to go to front, and front on our work group. And you can see that I have the geometry there, but we're going to use VoluMill for solids. So let's clear this out, change this to VoluMill, and with our ½ inch end mill. And before you start changing values or alt clicking depths and everything, make sure you're on the right coordinate system first. So let's go to the rotate tab, and I don't want to be on top, I want to be on front, because these values will change depending on what coordinate system you're in. And of course, if I alt click this surface, that should say 1 inch because this part is 2 inches thick. I'm going to say my clearance will be probably 1.5 inches when we're done. Now as far as the depth goes, I'm going to flip it over a little bit, alt click the back side. You can see that's -1. I'm probably going to go a little bit farther than that, -1.1 we'll say. And I probably want to do it in, well, it's, yeah, we probably want to do it in maybe 1 inch, well, let's go down to 3/4 inch steps. That would probably be a little bit better. And then we can click on the solid itself, turn face selection off, select on the solid itself, and click do it, and we'll watch the toolpath. Now if we look at this toolpath, it's not exactly what we want. Let's go down to machining, our Machine Sim. Let's run this. Pretty close, but I'm going to change a couple things on here. So I'm going to open up that process again. And I'm going to leave course stock on there, no Z stock. Have my cut width, which looks pretty good. If you use the technology expert here and fill in the blanks, this is going to give you suggested feeds and speeds, which are really close and probably even perfect for what you want. But I'm going to probably use material only on here. So I'm going to change that, and everything else looks pretty good here. I'm going to redo that, and you'll see the different toolpath here. Okay, it looks a little better. Now you can, a couple of things on here, on your body bag that you have your stock in here. If you right click on the stock, you can change the body to, right now it's just fixture display, which means it's not really looking at this as material, or you can say this is actual stock and it will look at the material as avoid things that shouldn't be cutting when it's on stock. So stock just says display it when you're rendering, but stock actually turns the part into stock on our stock body. And you can do the same thing with a fixture as well. So if you click on the fixture, let's just do the jaws. That's really all I'm worried about. And just right click and go to the body type, and you can say these are fixture display only. Fixture only shows it when you're rendering, but it doesn't really care if you run into it with the end mill or anything like this. But if you click on fixture, Gibbs knows that this is actually a fixture and will stay away from it with all the cutting tools. So I have it set for a fixture. So now let's run the rendering. Let's just kind of go back to isometric view. So let's run the rendering and see how it looks. So the rendering, let's take a look. Now as you can see, I already have one thing wrong here. As you can see, I'm already milling my part off, so we really can't have that, of course. Let's go back. Let's open up our VoluMill process. And of course, we're leaving stock everywhere, but on the solids tab, fixture clearance is only 50 thou, so it's staying away from the fixture by 50 thou, but that still means it can still get in between here. If, of course, the part was closer, it couldn't reach in there. So let's just change the fixture clearance to 1/2 inch. Let's see how that works, and then we'll redo it. Now we have our new toolpath, so let's take a look at that. So as you can see, looks a lot better. Stayed away from all our fixtures, and so we're good to go with the next process and operation, which means I'm going to take a finish pass along here with the same end mill. So I'm just going to clear this out. We're just going to use a contour with that same tool, and depth and that should be correct here. 1 inch. Go here. We're going to do a nice little entry and exit on here, and want to make sure you're on the correct position, which is the top. Just going to go to home view here. I'm going to start on this side just by clicking on that. Click on where I want it to, which side of this line I want it to cut. Of course, I want to climb mill. I'm going to hold down the Control Shift, click on this side, and I want it to end right about there. And the start probably right about here as well. Now if you want, you can right click and have it move exactly off the part, exactly where you'd like it, but I think this is good enough because we need to actually we have to go a little bit past there because this is the finished part. So let's go a little bit past there and a little bit past there, and let's click on do it. Looks pretty good. I think we're clearing our fixtures. This is set as fixture anyway, so we should be okay. So let's go to the machine sim and take a look what we've done. Slow it down a little bit. Here's our roughing. And then our finish pass on there. So we have our roughing and finish pass. So the next thing we probably need to do is we're going to cut out these holes on each side of the ears there, and then we'll deburr. So let's turn off Machine Sim. Let's go to the next process operation to machine these holes here. So the first thing to do is let's go to our coordinate system left side and our work group left side. And that activates the coordinate system. Let's create a drilled hole with that 1-inch drill. And of course, first of all, make sure you're on the left side coordinate system in the process. Let's go back to the drill tab. I'm going to click on this surface here. We'll just put 0 in there just so you can see it making an update. Alt key, click on there, and you can see it's 0.939 from origin to that surface. From here to here, it's 0.939. Let's start at about 1.5 inches away, probably 1.5 inches when it's done. Now we want to go by the tip, so I'm going to highlight this menu, alt click the bottom of the hole, and that's minus 0.5606, and that looks pretty good. Of course, you put in your feeds and speeds, everything like that. Click on the circle, and let's do it. So we have a drilled hole there. Now let's go to the opposite side. So I'm going to go to the right side on the work group, right side on the coordinate system. I'm going to open up this process back up, and of course this time we're going to choose right. And the depths and everything are still the same over there. If they weren't, you could alt click the same thing. Let's click on this circle and click do it. Now we have the hole over there. Now while we're over here, we might as well spot drill the holes so we don't have to rotate back over to here since we're already here already. So we're still going to use a drill process, but this time we want to use our combo spot drill. So let's bring that down. And again, our surface is this. Let's make sure you're on the right side, which we are. And this is a 1/4 inch, 1/4-20 tapped hole. So I want to give it just a little bit of a chamfer as well so we don't have a burr on there. So I'm going to say cut a 300 thousandths diameter spot on there. And with that in mind, since my spot drill is only a 1/4 inch, I better make that a little bit bigger, otherwise it's not going to put really a chamfer on there so much. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make this a 3/8 shank and 3/8 flutes, and we'll give this a little bit bigger there. And we should be good to go here. Let's do a little bit more than that. If we do 0.187, since this is a 45-degree angle, this will mean the tip is about 1/1000th diameter, so this will be just perfect. Okay, so we have that in there. Now we have our 300 thousandths, so it'll get the depth automatically by putting in this input here. So while we're at it, let's drill and tap. But well, since we have to go to the opposite side and do the same thing, we'll probably do these as separate operations. So we're going to select our holes, click on do it. Now we have the spot drill. Now while we're at it, let's open up this process back up and let's go to the left side. Depths and everything are the same. Let's go left over here and left over here on the work group and coordinate system. Select the holes here. Don't necessarily need the surfaces on there, although we could if we wanted. And there's our holes over there. So now we're back over to here, so let's change tools and let's go with the 201 drill. Just drag that down on top of it. Since we left off on the left side, we're good to go. The only thing I need to change is whether you want to peck full out, peck chip break, however you'd like to do that. I'll just leave the feed in, wrap it out at the moment. But this time I'm going to select the tip of the drill, and I'm going to go down. Let's zoom one of these holes up here. Alt click the bottom of the hole, and you can see that's 0.228 from origin. And of course our surface is 0.939 still. Everything's good there. And let's click on do it because we already have the hole selected. So there's our drill. And then let's go over to the opposite side. And so let's go to the right side. And again, we'll go to the right coordinate system and the white work group. And I'm just going to select the geometry as all. And click on do it there. Now we have the right side done. So now the only thing that's left is to tap the holes. So that was tool number 4, which is our 201 drill. So now we need to use the 1/4 inch tap. So we want to make sure we're on the right hand side, which we are. The top of the surface is that. I'm just going to go down 1/2 inch on there. And of course we want a rigid tap and put in whatever RPM you'd like there. And everything looks pretty good there. Since our holes are already selected, we can just click on do it. And now we're at it. Let's just go back to the left side now. Let's go back to left and left. Select the holes and click on do it. And now we have those holes there. All right, now we can go to render at this point and see where we're at. Let's turn on machine sim, slow it down a little bit. So now we're doing a tool change. Spot drill, rotate, spot drill again, drill, drill, come back and tap, rotate, come back and tap, and we're good so far. We look at the holes. Let's see, we're down inside the holes there. Our drill and our tap. So the next thing to do is to finish the holes and start the chamfer and deburr everything. So let's begin that. Of course, we want to be, we finished off on the left side, so make sure we're on the left side. Let's do clear. And this time let's do a contour. Let's use the 1/2 inch end mill. And of course, make sure we're on the left side. Zoom this up a little bit. I'll click that surface, 1.5 inch, that's good. Let's double check the floor there. Down inside here, that's good. Okay, we want to do this is probably, we're going to step down to 30 thou and we're going to ramp down. And of course, this is the stock I want to leave, 10 thou stock to finish up. I don't really need to do an entry and exit since this is just roughing, so I'll just zero that out. But we do need to pull up the geometry from here, or we could select the inside of the cavity here. I'm just going to turn on edge selection and select this edge and extract the edge. And we're good there. So I'm just going to select this here. If I go to home view here, we'll just kind of select at the top edge there. Climb mill, starting and ending here. And click on do it. And if you have cutter radius comp on, you have to have either a line or an arc before you can turn cutter comp on. That's kind of the standard rules on most machine tools. So let's put a little bit of an arc and line in there. And we're good to go. So that's a spiral cut down in there. Now let's switch over to the right side. Right side, and I'll go to the right side here and the right side on the coordinate system. Everything else is the same. We just need to extract the geometry off there. Let's just extract that. And we'll go here and everything's good there, so we'll do that. So now we have the bores at least roughed out. Now we need to come back and take a finish cut. So I'll probably use a 3/8 end mill to finish, just so we use a different tool on here. Basically the same thing. And I'll adjust the step overs a little bit more, maybe 150 thou step overs, no stock. Everything else there should be the same, so we'll do that. And we'll flip over to the left side. Left side here, left side here. Go over to the left side. Click here, click on do it. So now we have the bores done. So the last thing that we should need to do will be the chamfers. So let's go to the rendering and see where we're at. Slow it down a little bit. There's our ramping in spiral cut. Speed that up a little bit. Retract back out and go over to the opposite side. Then we're going to take our finish pass. Now we have our holes done, so the last thing to do on here is probably do the chamfers and chamfer everything here. So let's turn off our machine sim and go back to the other sides here so we can deburr. So let's start on the front side. That way we can get all of this front side there. And we want to go with tool number 7. So just drag that down on there. And again, we're using a contour. So we want to be on the front side this time. And I'm going to alt click this surface there, which is 1 inch. So 1.5 inches is probably just fine. And here I know if we have a 3/8 chamfer tool here, basically we only have 3/16 to work with on the depth, otherwise we're on the straight part of the shank. So I'm going to go down, probably go down 1/8 of an inch. That'll give us a nice chamfer on there, and it'll be higher up on the tool, so it'll the finish will look a lot better. So like I say, we're on front, everything's good there. One thing we need to do though is I need to tell it how much stock I'm going to take away. Now notice you'll have a plus or minus. So plus leave stock, minus will take it, force it into the material. So I want to do a minus. We'll do a 30 thou chamfer on there. Let's just go to the home view here so I can see my part flat on the screen. I'm going to start on this side and of course Control Shift to go to the other side. I want to go a little bit past there. Start a little bit past there, cut on this side in that direction. So we're going to do that. And there's my, of course we don't want to go, I want to turn that ramp off. So we got ramp off. And of course that's the wrong value there. I click on here, so I want to go 1 minus 1/8 of an inch. So it should be 7/8, so let's just redo that. So pretty easy to fix our mistake there. So that's that side. Now let's flip over to the other side. So let's go to the back side. And again, there's the back side. We can go to the home view. And again, open up your process. Make sure you're on the back side now. All the measurements will still be the same there. So we click on this side here, Control Shift, other side, just a little bit past our end of our part there, and click on do it. And there's the opposite side there. So the only thing left now, this will deburr all this here. The only thing left will be to deburr the front of those. Now we could either go all the way around this or just do 2 sides. Depends on how fast you want to do it. But let's go to the left side there. Just go to our home view. There's the left side. Now if we want, let's open up our process first. Make sure you're on left side. And let's pick up the top of the part there, right there, so it's 0.939. Inch and a half probably just fine. Let's alt click that again, and let's just go down minus 1/8 of an inch, I think is what I went on the last ones. So that's pretty good. Everything else there is good. So like I say, we could either just let it go around the part, or we could cut across there and then go over there and go over there. So I think I'll just let it go around the part. It's not going to hurt anything. This side's already done, so we'll start here. Just let it go around here. Control Shift and off our part there. And let's do that. Choose the correct side, of course. You see it cut on the wrong side, so just click redo. All right, now it's on the back side there. All right, let's do the opposite side now. So let's go to the right side, open up our process again, go to the right side, and let's just go to home view. Click on this side, start off our part, cut on the outside that direction, Control Shift, and there on that side, and we'll click on do it, and there we have our chamfer there. So let's do the rendering on that and see what it looks like. Turn on machine sim, slow it down. There's our first deburr. Flip it over. Second deburr. Rotate to the top, to the right side. Opposite side. Now we're all deburred. We just need to deburr the holes on there, so we'll probably do that and then add it, so when it's over on this side it'll do it complete. So let's turn off the machining. So while I'm over here doing the deburr on the left and right side, you can see that's operation 18 and 19. So while we're over here already, no need to rotate the machine and go to the left side, so we can add another operation while we're over here already. So to do that, I want to put an operation between 18 and 19. I'm going to select this little triangle here. I'm going to open up this as well, and this time I'll probably stay the same depth, but we want to be on the, I think this is the left side. Yeah, this is the left side. Everything looks pretty good there. Okay, this time I'm going to put 0 in there because I'm going to drive it off this outside circle here, which is already the top part of the chamfer. So let's just click here, this direction, everything looks good there, and we'll click do it, and that'll put it right in between the two there. Now when we flip over to the opposite side, let's go over to that one. And we're on the right hand side, so right hand there. Go to contour, 0 out this. And we can put it right after this toolpath right there. So again, I'm going to click on the outside there, climb mill, click on do it. Now let's render the whole thing again. We'll start out with rendering everything until we get to the chamfers there. Slow it down. Okay, we'll start off with the chamfering again. Well, let's slow it down a little bit. A little too fast. Okay. Well, it went around there pretty fast, but you can see we have the deburr 30 thou around the part, and this one was more like a 60 thou chamfer there, so it chamfered that. You take a look at that. Now the last thing to do is probably a little bit of engraving on there. So let's tackle that. So let's do the engraving on the front. So let's go to the front. Let's turn off machine sim. Let's go to the front and front over there. And let's just go to the home view. So when we do an engraving, you always want it in its own work group, because if you overlap the geometry you're drawing with other geometry and it's not correct, then you're going to have to make sure you select just the geometry to delete for the engraving, which sometimes can be hard if you have lots of geometry behind it. So let's just make a new work group, and we'll just call this engraving. And then let's choose our engraving fonts. So let's go over to our geometry palette and choose shape and engraving. It takes a minute to come up. Now, of course, you can use pretty much any engraving font you want in Windows. Pretty much everything there. And there's the Moore Park font. We'll just type in serial number 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll start in the middle of the grid, which will put it right here. So we need to bring the V-axis down about here so it engraves underneath here. So we're going to go positive, probably 1 inch. Let's try that there. Half inch is a little big. Let's do 1/8 of an inch. And let's see what it looks like. Still not far enough, so I'll just undo that one. And we'll move this down maybe 3 inches. Let's take a look at that. That looks pretty good. It's upside down, so I want to reverse it. But there's actually something new in Gibbs that's been in there for a little bit, not too long, but the mouse position in the grid, so we can actually put it where we'd like, and we can expand it a little bit, exactly right there. Press escape. Now we'll get rid of the other geometry there. So I'm just going to hide my solids for the moment. I'll just select those and we'll get rid of those. I'll turn off cam for just a moment. Bring back our part. Looks pretty good there. Now maybe I'll spin this around so it's the opposite direction. So I'll just select them. We'll just do a 2D rotate. And we'll put in 2.5 inches in there. And we'll rotate it 180. And it looks pretty good there. We want to look see what it looks like when we're up and above. Looks pretty good there. Now you don't have to have it on the surface if you don't want, but I usually like to bring it up to the surface I'm actually engraving. So I'm just going to go to the modify command and force depth, and by clicking on force depth, I want it on this surface there, which is 1 inch, so that's going to bring it right up to my surface there, which is great. Okay, so now let's do a little engraving on there. So let's clear this out. We're just going to do contour again with our engraving tool, which is the 031 ball end mill. We want to make sure we're on the front. And I'm going to alt click the surface. 1.5 inches is fine. I'm going to probably go 985 depth wise. I don't need any entry and exits. I don't need any round corners or cutter comp on this. Flood's just fine. Everything's selected there. So let's just do that. Now our engraving done. So we should have a finished part. So let's turn everything off here. And we'll go to cut part rendering and take a look. Slow this down a little bit. Change tools. And let's stop it there and zoom this up a little bit. So there we have our finished part. So let's run through the rendering from start to finish. deburr. Then last of all, of course, engraving. That's our finished part there. Now we could probably take a slitting saw and go around this base here. Maybe we'll do that and just leave enough to where we can break it off, so we could finish the bottom side there by sanding it off, or put it in a second op to cut the bottom. So we'll create a slitting saw for our last tool. Turn off our render. And we'll put about a 4-inch there, would probably be just fine. 3/4 inch shank, and probably 1/8 of an inch on the thickness there, just like it shows in the picture there. So we'll use that as the cutoff tool. And of course, this time we want to be in the top and top there. And let's pull some geometry off the bottom of that so we know where the actual part is. So I'm going to turn face selection on, select that face, extract the edges. So now we have this bottom face here that we could actually cut it right to size and then kind of break it off. And you can decide how close you want to get and how much stock you want to leave on there. We'll probably put a smaller box inside there just so we can leave a little bit to break off there. So let's do the box command. Let's probably make it 2-inch, and Y probably 1/8 of an inch. And we'll put it down at the Z level. We'll just Alt-click that. Get the bottom there, and let's see, take a look at what it looks like. So we can cut around this here, and that'll probably leave 1/8 of an inch there, and you can either break it off or do a second op and finish the floor there. Okay, so let's turn all this stuff off here, and the last thing is going to be a contour with that tool, and we're going to stay above the part there. And we want to go down to the bottom level here. Let's just highlight that and I'll click the bottom there. That's -6 inches, but our actual tool is 1/8 of an inch thick, so I want to go actually -6 1/8 there. And our material there, of course, is 6 inches. So let's kind of go to the top view there. Let's probably start on this side here, and we'll actually start off the part quite a bit, and we'll go around and finish on this section and come off the part there, and everything looks pretty good. Now if you want to get the exact amount, we're just guessing on how far that tool is outside there before you machine it. But what we can do, we just turn cam off for a second, go to top view. Let's turn on our geometry palette. Let's click on the point command and make sure the tool is highlighted there. And you want to be in the home view. And we want to do a mouse position. You can see our tool there, so we can see how far we need to go outside this, so when it comes down to Z, it's not going to clip our part. So I'm going to say it's going to, so if we're starting on this edge, it's going to come out about to there. So I'm going to click on that point there. And when it comes off our edge, we're going to be right about there. And I want to come off our part, so about there to finish. So we'll turn that off. So I have 2 points there, my starting and ending point. So let's turn cam back on. And let's highlight this again. Let's go to top view. Like I say, we're starting here, and I'm going to grab my start marker right off here, and it'll go perpendicular to that. And I want to, of course, Control Shift, and the ending marker snap to there, and it'll go perpendicular to that. And we'll click on Do It. And we should have our tool path to cut that off. So let's do the cut part rendering and see what it looks like. Change tools. Rotate, then move down in Z. And there we have our part cut off there. So the last thing we need to really do is post the code, so we'll do that and let you take a look. Let's turn off Machine Sim, Cam and Tools, and let's find our post processor and then post some code for you. And here's some sample code for the post output for a Haas UMC 750. I have about a dozen UMC 750 posts for various options on the machine, so they won't always be posting exactly the same depending on what the customer has for options. But you can see this is our tool list here. We're going home on the Z and the B and C, and you can see the rotations here. And as we go down through there, VoluMill cuts, let's kind of get down towards the end there. And that's kind of towards the end there where we're doing the slitting saw, the key cutter. There's some more of the ball end mills for engraving. And of course the rotations as well, B90, C90. So we have all the correct posts for your Haas UMC 750 or pretty much every 5-axis machine out there. So any questions, you can leave me comments, and thank you for watching.